take your demonstration away.
So you asked me to do best practice. Well, I'm not sure if I'm doing best practice. I'll just say what I do.
We can judge that right now.
Yeah, you can judge it. Go ahead, no problem. So first thing, I always do checks. Always. It's just a habit. It takes a few seconds and I don't ever start without. So firstly, what I always do is check my wheels, see if they're are definitely not fixed. So I will always flip them around. So this one actually came out of the washing with the big wheel fixed. So I turned that loose immediately. I always check whether I am on CO2 or on air. I am sure that air doesn't really matter in just a diagnostic gastroscopy. However, if you do it every single time and you have to do something therapeutic, you are sure you're on CO2. These are my first checks. I listen, hear the suctions working. I test the lens cleaning, and it takes me literally 10 seconds. It's done, and I'm ready to go. And it saves a lot of time later, because sometimes when you take over gastroscopy, colonoscopy from a trainee who doesn't get around some flexure, first thing I do, check my wheels, and very, very often you will find they're not loose. So as Jolene also said, I will also check whether like whether the angle of my camera is right, because if I start like this, obviously I'll look into the nose rather than the throat. So these are some very quick checks, and then see, best practice. This man has a big tongue. So, and then you can, yeah, you follow, everybody knows how to do this, I'm sure. So this guy is also intubated.
So they'll just pause and show us the anatomy of the pharynx, and show, also show the tube and what it looks like, and explain that to people who are not sure, maybe using a pause a bit.
Hold on. All right. So here we're at the back of the throat here. So if you come in closer, there you go, you see that the tube goes down. Where the tube is now, you would usually see the vocal cords very easily. And actually you pick left or right side in the piriform sinus. I hope the English is correct here. It's often, I find, easier to go here to the right.
So you're starting to see the bottom of the Barrett's here beautifully in retroflexion. The cap is critical for this. So here you see on the left side, I'll point out to the guys in Ghent, you see the bottom of the scar here, which we saw in forward view very nicely. A few little islands of Barrett's, much better visualized, I think, than in forward view here, even with a cap. And then up here, you start to see the rest of the Barrett's, and here is that island of squamous covering thing that we saw before. So take a photo in that orientation is really, really useful to not miss stuff that's going either down the greater or the lesser curvature in view. And finally, can we do acetic acid, please, to demonstrate the additional benefit of acetic acid in this situation? I don't know if anyone in the room has any questions, comments, or who has any, John or Roland, if you have comments while we put acetic acid on.
I think what we haven't done yet, what you should always do in this type of Barrett's, is taking up pictures before acetic acid.
So I think photography is a really critical one. I think let's come back to it in another case, because we have indeed missed the boat in this one. And remind me if you don't mind. Then about how you nicely photograph Barrett's. So here,
So David, Tanika's just whispering in my ear, I've never applied acetic acid, so this is really a nice thing. Yeah.
So why don't you explain to her how to do it then?
Okay. So firstly, I think this is a good position, as in the tip of the catheter is out just the right amount, and then I think she has to be really at the bottom, where it starts, not in the stomach. There's no point. The gastric folds will also turn white. And I think one of the important things is to, as Maureen starts spraying, that she desufflates. So the acetic acid it's not just in the middle of the lumen and you have to spray a ton to get your mucosa to take it up. So just deceplate your lumen as Maureen starts spraying so that the acetic acid really
and pull back.
yes, and pull back as you go.
Like Nika has had, and I think that's courses like this where those things are discussed out loud.
So can I comment on that? So I think I'll go back to the previous discussion about, Lobka did not biopsy the duodenum on the previous case because she was quite confident it didn't need to be biopsied.
Nika, you can put the scope in.
If you're not confident, you biopsy and then you check the histology. So I think, so there's a learning curve here for people. So yeah, in the early phase, do lots of biopsies.
Your point is well taken. I think you need to be able to describe where the abnormality is and what you found. And then you need to do what I would consider to be a targeted biopsy. And I think critically, if you're going to biopsy, your first biopsy is probably the most important one, because after that, you could difficulty seeing things. So if you're going to do biopsy of an abnormal area, it is crucial you get your first biopsy in the right place. Otherwise, you lose the ability to target thereafter because of the bleeding.